So I'm curious, as far as tones go, generally speaking, I know it's case by case basis. In general, what really works and what is really hard to make work?
Well, first, again, depends on the genre of music. Then it depends on the song. So for me, the most important part of the song is the drums. You get the drums right in a song, the drummer and the drums sound right, then the song takes on its life, and then I can start figuring out what everything else is doing. Because listen, I'm not a DW set, big stadium sounding person. I don't like that drum sound.
Sure.
I like old school leadies, with like 5 microphones, and I get a cool sound. It's unique. It's cool. And then I start looking for the players. So it's kind of like, so once you get the song, and say your songwriter, your artist is piano driven, and that's a different story. That's a different sound for guitars. So you got a piano driven, alternative star, and they're playing. And so the drums have to match with that piano, because there's your low weight. There's your weight. You got this piano and you got this drum. There's your warmth. And then you got to figure out how to now bring the bass in that creates more of that lower frequency that can support the kick drum and the weight of the piano, right? Then I instantly start looking for that higher sound from the guitars. So, it might be, a 335 with Fender with the bass rolled off a little bit, a slap of reverb in there, not a lot. Again, I always go for the older sounding equipment, not because it's cooler.
Sure.
They just sound better. A 65 or a 57 Fender Deluxe sounds way better than a 2021 version of it. It just is, because it just does.
Yeah.
And older guitars sound better because they were built better, the electronics are better, and they are worn in. They're worn. They got life. They got that thing. Somebody played this guitar and they loved it, and it's just got built-in warmth, So you got to remember that. The thing about, vintage is not because, oh, look, I have all these vintage stuff. It just sounds better. But there's acoustic guitars. Taylor makes great acoustic guitars that are, that beat my old Martins, So anyway, there's that version. But if it's like a punk band like I just did, and honestly, I don't like the, like that ratty, overdrive distortion from the Marshall sound that's just thin and piercing. There's nothing unique to me about that. So with Surfboard, I just dialed in a kind of a cool drum sound, and then all small amps. Like I had one of the players in a little tiny Supro. One of the guys was in, a Selmer amp, all small amps, 2 microphones, got 57 and got my Royer in there. And, and then pedals, didn't really get involved with pedals. I either drove the pre or got enough of a crack on the amp. And then when we did overdubs, then that's when I bring out the pedals, but very subtle, like it was part of the live guitar. And so it wasn't like all this, because, again, I didn't want to overproduce that band, but those guitar tones are so great. They just have like a really unique sound. So when you put it up against like their older stuff or other punk bands, it sounds cool. Like it's taken on this whole other hybrid of something. I'm not too sure what it is, but it's crisp, it's clear, but it's ratty and it's still cool and it's trashy and it's punk, but you can hear the guitars, you can hear them, what they're playing, So anyways, and then you go to country, you're dealing with different tones. And, so I think really it's about what song you're doing and what vibe you want. Do you want Radiohead kind of cool shit like that? Well, then you totally whip out the pedals, but really mess them up and do really cool things and take off all the EQ or all the low end off of guitars. Sometimes I'll do that. So it almost sounds broken, and not filtered, like how people, I'll tell you what I don't do. I don't use the box to manipulate sounds. I record the sounds.
Ah, yeah. You get everything coming in the way you want it to sound.
I get it coming in that way. And then there's a couple times where I'll fuck with something in Tools, but I do not. Tools to me is a recording. It's a tape recorder. It's a recording device. It's not something I sit there and try to manipulate a bunch of stuff. I have, my Pultecs and my Fairchilds. I got so much great gear. It would be like, I just tried to move microphones around. I changed snares. I changed kicks. I changed players and just make sure that I'm recording the best sound I can.
Yeah.
And then that opens up a whole new world.